Have you ever noticed how some Chinese women seem to stay surprisingly slim well into their 50s, 60s, and even 70s? Of course, not every Chinese woman is slim. China is facing its own growing problem with overweight and obesity. So I'm not talking about a magical genetic advantage, or some secret Chinese diet. What caught my attention was something much more interesting. When I started looking into the traditional lifestyle of older Chinese adults, I found several habits that were surprisingly different from the way many of us in the West eat and live. And some of them had almost nothing to do with dieting. In fact, one of the first things I discovered had nothing to do with what they eat at all. It had to do with how they eat. And once I understood that, several other pieces of the puzzle started falling into place. So let's take a closer look. Because by the end of this video, I'll give you 3 simple habits you can actually try yourself, without giving up bread, going on a restrictive diet, or trying to eat like you're living in China. Habit number 1. Vegetables aren't just a side dish. Let's start with something very simple. Think about a traditional Chinese meal. You might see rice, fish or meat, tofu, and several vegetable dishes. But there's an important difference in how those foods are often combined. Vegetables aren't necessarily treated as a tiny side dish sitting next to a huge portion of meat or starch. They can be a significant part of the meal. And this isn't just something I noticed in photographs. China's current dietary guidelines recommend eating vegetables with every main meal and getting at least 300 grams of vegetables a day. They also emphasize whole grains, legumes, fish, and a variety of foods. Research looking at dietary patterns among older Chinese adults has also found associations between more traditional dietary patterns, including vegetables, rice, and other minimally processed foods, and a lower risk of obesity compared with more modern patterns that contain more fast food and processed meat. But there's an important point here. I'm not saying vegetables magically cause weight loss. And I'm certainly not saying rice is a diet food. The bigger idea is food volume and balance. Vegetables can add a lot of volume, fiber, and nutrients without adding as many calories as many highly processed foods. That can make it easier to feel satisfied without constantly overeating. And this is something you can use immediately. Instead of asking, "What should I eliminate from my diet?" try asking, "What can I add to my plate?" For example, instead of a large bowl of pasta with a tiny amount of vegetables, make the vegetables a much bigger part of the meal. Keep a reasonable portion of pasta. And add a good source of protein. You haven't gone on a diet. You've simply changed the structure of the meal. And that's much easier to maintain. Habit number 2. They don't necessarily fear rice. Now here's where things get interesting. We're talking about staying slim, and we're talking about traditional Chinese food. And what do we find? Rice, noodles, dumplings, rice porridge, foods that many Western diet plans tell you to eliminate if you want to lose weight. So why don't these foods automatically cause weight gain? Because one food rarely tells the whole story. Traditional Chinese diets have historically included grains as an important part of the meal. China's dietary guidelines continue to recommend grains as part of a balanced diet, while encouraging a combination of refined and whole grains and legumes. The important issue isn't simply, did you eat rice? It's, how much did you eat, what did you eat with it, and what did the rest of your day look like? Think about the difference between these 2 meals. A huge bowl of white rice, plus a sugary drink, plus a fried appetizer, plus dessert. That's one situation. A moderate serving of rice, with fish or tofu, and a large portion of vegetables is something very different. Same basic carbohydrate. Completely different meal. So if you love rice, potatoes, bread, or pasta, you don't necessarily have to declare war on them after 50. A much more useful strategy is to control the portion, and build the meal around protein and vegetables. Habit number 3. The cooking method matters. There's another interesting feature of traditional Chinese cooking. Many dishes are prepared quickly with vegetables, fish, tofu, or lean protein. You might see steamed fish, stir-fried vegetables, soups with tofu, mushrooms, vegetables, or seafood. And this brings us to something extremely easy to overlook. Cooking oil. Vegetables are naturally relatively low in calories. But pour several tablespoons of oil over them. And suddenly a very healthy-looking dish can become much more calorie-dense. That's why Chinese dietary guidelines also emphasize moderating oil, salt, and added sugar, and choosing cooking methods that preserve the natural qualities of food. And you don't need to learn Chinese cooking to use this idea. Simply experiment with steaming, baking, roasting, braising, or quickly stir-frying with a modest amount of oil. The goal isn't to make your food bland. It's to stop turning every healthy ingredient into a high-calorie meal through sauces, excessive oil, or deep frying. Protein, the part you shouldn't miss, but there's a mistake I don't want you to make. If you hear everything I've said so far and conclude, okay, I'll just eat more vegetables and less food. That's not the lesson. Especially after 50, maintaining muscle becomes increasingly important. And traditional Chinese diets are not simply about vegetables and rice. They can include fish, eggs, tofu, soybeans and other legumes, seafood, poultry, meat, and, depending on the person and region, dairy products. Chinese dietary guidance for older adults specifically emphasizes adequate protein from foods such as fish, meat, eggs, dairy, and soy products, along with physical activity to help slow muscle loss. And this is one of the biggest mistakes I see people make when they try to lose weight after 50. They simply start eating less. Much less. They lose weight, but they may also lose valuable muscle. That's not the outcome we want. The goal isn't just to make the number on the scale smaller. The goal is to reduce excess body fat while protecting strength and muscle. So instead of asking, how little can I eat, a better question is, how can I build a meal that keeps me satisfied and gives my body the nutrients it needs? A simple starting point is to include a meaningful source of protein at each main meal. Eggs at breakfast. Greek yogurt or cottage cheese. Fish or chicken at lunch. Tofu with beans, seafood, or another protein source at dinner. It doesn't have to be complicated. Habit number 5. Movement doesn't end when the workout ends. Here's where things get really interesting. Because when we talk about exercise, we usually think about the gym. 30 minutes on a treadmill. A strength workout. A fitness class. But there's another kind of movement that happens throughout the entire day. Walking to the store. Climbing stairs. Cooking. Cleaning. Gardening. Walking to meet a friend. Standing up instead of sitting for another hour. And all of those little movements add up. Imagine two women who are both 60. They both exercise for 30 minutes a day. But after that workout, one spends most of the day sitting. She drives everywhere, works at a desk, watches TV in the evening, and rarely gets up. The other woman keeps moving throughout the day. She walks to nearby places, does household chores, goes outside, takes the stairs, walks after dinner. On paper, their workouts are identical. But their total daily activity can be dramatically different. And that's why I wouldn't ask only, how often do you exercise? I'd also ask, how much do you move during the other 23.5 hours? This is something you can change without buying a gym membership. Park a little farther away. Take the stairs when it's comfortable and safe. Walk while talking on the phone. Get up every hour if you've been sitting for a long time. Take a short walk after lunch or dinner. These things may sound almost too simple. But that's precisely why they're sustainable. Habit number 6. The after-dinner walk. There's another habit that caught my attention. Walking after dinner. In many Chinese communities, especially among older adults, evening walks are a familiar part of daily life. People go outside after dinner. They walk through parks or around their neighborhoods. They talk with friends. Some practice Tai Chi or other gentle forms of exercise. And there's something important about this. It doesn't necessarily feel like a workout. You're simply moving. Yet research suggests that walking after a meal can help reduce the rise in blood glucose that normally occurs after eating. And that makes this habit particularly interesting for people over 50. You don't have to power walk for an hour. You don't need special equipment. You could simply try this. After dinner, don't sit down immediately. Go outside and walk for 10 or 15 minutes. Keep the pace comfortable. Think of it as part of your evening routine rather than exercise. That's a much easier habit to maintain than saying, starting Monday, I'm going to work out 5 days a week. Of course, we can't talk about China without talking about tea. Green tea, oolong tea, pu'er tea. And this is where I want to clear up one very popular misconception. Tea is not a magic fat-burning drink. Yes, green tea contains compounds that have been studied for their possible effects on metabolism and body weight. But any effect on weight is likely to be modest. So I wouldn't tell you to drink green tea and expect the pounds to disappear. There's a much simpler benefit. If you're drinking unsweetened tea instead of soda, sweetened coffee, or sugary drinks, you're simply avoiding a significant source of added sugar and calories. And that can matter much more than any supposed fat-burning effect. So if you enjoy tea, great. Drink it. Preferably without adding lots of sugar. But don't think of it as a weight loss supplement. Think of it as a low-calorie alternative to sugary drinks. Habit number 7. Portion size may matter more than the food itself, and now we get to something that may explain more than any particular Chinese food. Portion size. Think about a traditional family-style meal. There may be several dishes on the table. Some vegetables, fish, tofu, a little meat, rice, soup. Instead of one enormous plate of a single food, there may be several different foods shared among everyone. That creates a different eating experience. You can have a little of several things instead of filling one huge plate with one calorie-dense dish. Now, I'm not saying every Chinese meal looks like this. Modern Chinese diets are changing rapidly, especially in large cities. Fast food, sugary drinks, processed foods, and restaurant meals are increasingly common. So we shouldn't romanticize traditional Chinese eating. But there is still a useful lesson here. Variety doesn't have to mean excess. You can have rice. You can have noodles. You can have meat. You can have dessert. The question is how much of each, and what else is on the plate. So instead of eliminating your favorite foods, try changing their proportions. A moderate serving of rice. A generous serving of vegetables. A good source of protein. And enough food to feel satisfied, but not stuffed. That's a much more sustainable approach than putting your favorite foods on a forbidden list. But there's something else I want to make very clear. I wouldn't recommend trying to copy a Chinese diet literally. You don't need to start eating tofu every day. You don't need to replace all your meals with rice and vegetables. You don't need to drink gallons of green tea. And you definitely don't need to follow an extremely restrictive diet because someone on social media claims, "This is why Chinese women don't gain weight after 50. That's simply not true. There is no single Chinese secret. And there doesn't need to be. Because the more interesting lesson is actually much simpler. It's the combination of small habits. More vegetables. Reasonable portions. Adequate protein. Fewer sugary drinks. More everyday movement. Walking after meals. And maintaining strength and muscle as you get older. None of these habits is revolutionary. But together, they can create an environment where maintaining a healthy weight becomes easier. When I started researching this topic, I thought I was going to discover one secret food. Maybe green tea. Maybe rice. Maybe some traditional ingredient I'd never heard of. But that's not what I found. What I found was much more interesting. There isn't one secret. There is a pattern. A way of eating that often emphasizes whole foods and vegetables. A way of thinking about portions. Regular movement throughout the day. Walking after meals. And an emphasis on staying physically capable as you age. And I think that's a lesson worth taking from traditional Chinese lifestyles. Because we spend so much time looking for the one food that will make us lose weight, when the real answer is usually much less exciting. It's the dozens of small decisions we make every single day. What we put on our plate. How much we eat. How often we move. Whether we spend the evening sitting, or take a short walk. Whether we're protecting our muscles. Or allowing them to gradually disappear. That's what adds up. Save this video and subscribe to the channel. Here, we look at what research actually tells us about healthy aging, nutrition, weight management, and staying strong after 50. And I'd love to hear from you. Which of these habits would you be most willing to try? More vegetables? Smaller portions? More daily movement? Or that short walk after dinner? Leave your answer in the comments. And if you found this video useful, share it with someone over 50 who might benefit from it. Thanks for watching. Take care of yourself, Stay active, and I'll see you in the next video.